Hi everyone. Now, often when we practice back bends, a common complaint is you feel like very pain in the back. It's very uncomfortable in the lower back region. There's a couple of reasons for that. One of it being the rigidity of the T-spine or the thoracic area. So your T-spine area, it's not really built for very big movements. It's this area here plus your rib cage. It actually protects your heart and your lungs vital organs, which is why it's built in such a way that it's more encased in and rigid. So that being said, it doesn't mean it doesn't move. For backbends especially, people with a little bit more rigidity right there will tend to borrow flexibility from other parts, and the most convenient area will be the lower back. Hence and therefore, when you do a backbend and you can't access the movement here much, you could be dumping into the lower back and you can be just scrunching a little bit more in that area, which attributes to the cause of I feel my back pain when I do a back bend. So today I'm just going to cover very simple drills that I often use it also for my own personal practice to actually increase the awareness of mobility or movement in the T-spine. Now, generally in a back bend, you want this area to be able to actually lift, lengthen, and also broaden at the same time. So what we need today for the drills or the exercises will be a long fin resistance band. And if you have this tiny little one as well, it will be great. And two yoga blocks. All right. So I'm just going to set these props aside first. And we're going to talk about that movement in a cat-cow pose position. So let's come on to all fours. And you take your hands shoulder distance apart, knees hip width distance apart. Now, in a yoga cat-cow or in a regular class cat-cow, we do not think too much of things. But when we're preparing for the back bend, we are actually focusing a little bit more of the extension of the spine. So let's just do a regular cat-cow first. I take a deep breath in, a deep breath out. And then now I'm initiating the movement by sinking the belly down and slowly curling forwards from the mid back all the way into my upper back before I look up. And then as you exhale, you can just look down to the floor, round your upper back, mid back, and lower back. Right? Let's move through that a few times to do it as a warm up. Inhale to lengthen and lift up, and then exhale to round in. Inhale to lengthen and lift up, curling the chest forwards, and then exhaling, rounding it in. Now I'm going to slow it down for the purpose of a back bend, and we might have to probably take a few breaths in the lengthened position. So right now, inhale, and as I exhale, I'm going to drop the belly down, and I feel my lower rib cage area right here dropping towards the floor. And from that area, I'm slowly going to lengthen. So don't think upwards, but think forwards first. So lengthen forwards, like the whole mid back, right? Higher up the mid back, all the way to the upper back before I arch a little bit. And then as I exhale, of course, the whole movement, I look down and then I round through the back. So let's do it 3 times. Drop the belly. So think about extension. That means we're lengthening forwards first before we take it upwards after we've maximized that. And then exhaling down. And then 2 more times here, sorry. Drop the belly from the mid-back. Lengthen. Think about lengthwise and then arching up. And then exhaling and coiling it in. Last one here, drop the belly and then lengthen again. So think about curling or moving your collarbones in front of your shoulders. And then thereafter, once you've maximized the length, curl from there. Take a couple of breaths there. Try not to feel the neck or the lower back, but it's that rigid chunk of the T-spine that's doing that lengthening. And then as you exhale, looking down and rounding it in. Okay, so that's one. Now, the next thing you can do to actually enhance more sensation in the extension of the spine is this action of pulling downwards. So as you pull downwards, right, your lats engages a little bit. We do that on the floor in cat-cow, and how it's done is we're going to pull the hands towards the knees without moving the hands. So just watch me for a bit first. I'm not doing anything in my spine, and I'm not doing anything with my shoulders. I'm just pulling my hands in towards my knees, right? So just this action right here. Okay, tiny bit of stuff. Now we're gonna add on. So I'm going to slowly breathe in and breathe out. I drop the belly and I'm thinking about lengthening and extending from the mid back upwards. Okay. Now you can do this action of pulling in anytime, but I'm showing you right here. This is more or less my maximum lengthen range, and now I'm applying the pull action. So I'm gonna pull my hands towards my knees, and against that, I'm trying to reach up a little bit more of extension of my chest for 3, 2, 1, and then exhale, release it. Let's try that again. It takes practice. So right here, we're going to just drop the belly and extend forwards as per usual. Once you've reached your max, think about hands pulling towards the knees, and into that, I'm trying to curl a little bit more. So there's a little bit more feedback going through, and then exhaling, rounding it in. So what happens if you feel a lot of sensation coming along this area of your back, the mid back or the higher mid back area, then you're probably feeling the correct areas of engagement. Sometimes we can't control that movement so well in hands and knees position. We tend to like use a little bit more lower back when we have very limited range of movement in the thoracic area. So one way to actually increase the awareness there is actually to strap yourself with a very thin resistance band, and you're going to put it just behind or below the lower rib cage area. You can sit in a cross-legged position or in this position to do it, and just use your hands, hold on to the band, pull forwards, and try to just segment that little area at the resistance band to round in, and think about just pulling that section forwards. So you can see the movement is kind of small. I'm not going for the whole chunk of movement, but as much as possible, just segment that region in. And then you can move slowly, slightly upwards, pull forwards. First, tiny bit of rounding in so that you can really feel the feedback of the band, and then feel yourself lift that tiny chunk away from the band, right? So it's small little movements here. I'm trying my best to not move the other parts, and even so, they will move a little bit. But the key thing here is to create a little bit more attention and awareness to the little bits of the T-spine that we might have. So pulling forward for the third segment, I reach back a little bit and then I extend a little bit. And you can continue doing so, like climbing up a ladder through the spine all the way to the maximum. You will find that there are some areas that doesn't really move that well, and those are the areas you might want to take a little bit more time and focus a little bit more into it, right? So do it 3 or 4 times repetitively, and you'll suddenly gain a better awareness on the T-spine movement. Next, you can use the same resistance band back into the quadruped position. Next, you can use the same resistance band back onto the all fours position doing cat-cow. This serves as both a feedback for your spine to move properly, as well as it has a certain element of strength involved. So I'm going to strap this band around the bottom part of my lower ribs again, and you can either thread your thumb through if you feel it's too intense, thread or your 4 fingers through the band. Okay, and we come onto all fours. So once again, stack the shoulders above the wrist, walk knees back a little bit, and then begin to breathe, inhale and exhale, initiating the movement here of the cat-cow pose. So I'm going to drop the belly and slowly pull forwards from that area, that region where that bend is, to slowly extend forwards. Now you can add on by pulling the hands in towards the knees to create a little bit more traction to enhance the arch. And then as you exhale, we round in. Good. And then again, inhale. So the complete cat-cow pose, we drop the belly first, creating a little bit more awareness and attention where the bend is. I'm going to drop that section around the bend, and I'm going to extend or lengthen the spine upwards and forwards from that point, adding in a little bit of pull of the hands to reach a little bit higher. And then as I exhale, I round it back through, lifting that chunk where it's at the back of that chunk just beneath the bend up a little bit more. Okay, then we can slowly add on by moving the bend to a slightly higher section or segment of the T-spine. Okay, same thing, same setup. So you can go slowly, especially if you feel some areas are a little bit stiffer. Take more time in those areas. So breathe normally first. And I'm gonna really drop the belly and think about extending from my lower rib cage and more from the section where the bend is, lengthening forwards, pulling the hands in, lifting up from there. And then as I exhale, slowly rounding it in, making sure that I push that area at the bend a little bit more compared to the rest of my spine. And then dropping the belly again, same one on this side or this segment, dropping down, pulling the hands in, and think about curling or extending from that segment, and then rounding it in. Okay, so I'm going to move to one more chunk, and you can continue to do so as usual. If you find one area a little bit more challenging, take your time and spend maybe 5 or more reps there. Right, hands down again. So this is a slightly higher chunk. And then deep breath in, deep breath out. And sink the belly down, lower ribs down, second section, and then from that section. Okay, so this is really my sweet spot and it's really hard. I'm going to take a couple of breaths there, pulling it in and really, really building that awareness that I'm lengthening from that chunk. And then exhaling it in, pushing up into the bend with that portion of my T-spine. And let's do that again. So we drop the belly, slowly articulating areas there. Okay, and then once I reach that spot where the bend is, sink down slightly and pull forwards from that point. And then exhaling, rounding it in again, lifting that area that's just above the bend a little bit more, broadening the back. Okay. The next thing we're going to do for the T-spine is to just set up a block or 2 blocks. So the setup of the height depends on the dimension of the body. So if you have a longer torso, I advise a higher setup. Now, if you're a little bit stiffer in your T-spine, let's say your shoulders are normally kind of rounded and the T-spine looks like this all the time, it might be a bit of challenge to take this height. So you can actually minus out 1 block and try it with the lower height first. You can always increase it to the second height if you need to do so. So set up the blocks this way and not too much like at the edge because you might topple over. This is a lot more stable. And right, we're going to look at this block that's going to rest on the back of my shoulder blade area. So I'm just going to sit away, facing away from you, and just think about the top edge of the block, right? It's coming more to this area here at the bottom of my shoulder blades. So typically I will tell students it's like 1 finger or 2 finger distance below the armpit crease. Now you can always adjust it. So how we come into it is I'm going to sit facing away from the block, right? And maybe for the first one, you need to test it out. So I'm going to use my hands to steady the blocks right here, holding it right here. And I'm going to very, very slowly lean over the block. So, right, leaning over, leaning over, leaning over, and that's quite a good sweet spot for me right here. Now, let's say if you are taking it a little bit too high, it will feel like you're leaning and it comes like, you see the top edge of my block? It's really like up here and it's not really very comfortable. So just adjust it. Likewise, if it's too low, it's coming more so towards the lower back region. I'll see whether I can demonstrate that. So if you sit too close in and it comes right there and it feels like it's jutting in and it hurts, that's not the right place. So keyword is you need to find the sweet spot that you're comfortable, right? Gonna lean over it, and the position right here, the block corresponds to the sternum bone, which is this flat bone in between your chest. So find that the sternum bone is stacking slightly on top of the block. Allow the tips of the shoulders to relax a little bit and let the back of your neck be long as you just hang over it for a while. All right, so this part here needs to lengthen, and then the back here needs to broaden a little bit. So we're not going for a scrunch and a squeeze right now. We want to just feel I'm able to lengthen and broaden with the back rib cage with the breath. Allow the hands to hang. So if your shoulders or your pecs are tight, it needs more work. Look at mine, it's quite tight, okay? And I will take my hands, my arms into an external rotation to actually open that up more. So don't worry if your head doesn't reach the floor. Again, that's all dimensions. Breathe here, right? And if some students feel uncomfortable with the neck, we will talk about neck strengtheners next time. You can actually use another block to prop up here, or just use your hands to support your head. So stay here passively for a few breaths first. Right. Feel the max area, the highest area is the chest and not anywhere else. And then slowly, when you come up, you can support onto your elbows and come up to sit. We had the passive version just now where we just lie over the block to open up the chest and to find length and broadness in the T-spine. And this one is more of strength building. So we're going to sit as the first position, and I'm going to use my hand to actually place it right here underneath my chin and the collarbone. So the purpose being to really just make sure that I use this area to come down rather than tilt my head away, using more of the neck area. So take a breath in. You can use the hands to support you if you're very unsure. And I'm leaning back slightly until my lower ribs, as you can see, finds the yoga block. And now I begin to really slowly think about lengthening this area here of my T-spine. Okay, still not using my neck yet. And then as I lie over the yoga block, take a couple of breaths here. Think lengthen and broaden. All right, and then this is it for me. Now coming up, you do not want to tuck the chin excessively. So just keep it as neutral, and it's a little bit of core engagement. If you're not feeling very, very strong, use one hand to support you. And we're slowly coming up and reaching away. So without the hands, all right, you can also do it, but let's just be really conscious not to flip the head up. So breathing in and then breathing out, rest onto the block. Now right here, don't rush it. Think about lengthening and broadening the rib cage as much as I can. Lengthen, broaden, good. And then not flipping, look this way, keeping this grapefruit or Fuji apple between my chin and my collarbone, and I'm arching back. Okay, so this is like genuine range, coming back up, right? So we are coming up slowly. You might need a little bit of core to do that. You can put your hands down onto the floor to help you as well. Now, if any of the students feel that their neck, when it's not strong to bear that weight going down, it really feels like uncomfortable, what you can do is to take a thin resistance band and place it at the back of the head on top of the ears. So this might look like I'm wearing a headband, right? I'm going to put it behind me and it goes to the area above the tip of my ears, as you can see. So I'm going to use my hands to pull to support my neck and then inhale as I exhale. So here goes, the lower ribs touches block. Think about lengthening and broadening, right? Supporting the neck with pulling of the band and keeping this Fuji apple size distance between my chin and my sternum as usual. So you can hold it with two hands, but because of the video, I'm just going to remove this hand down. So think still of lengthening and broadening, and then pulling up into the band to support the neck, right? And then we try to arch a little bit more from here and not from the neck. So think even curling over the block more with more length, and breathe into the broadness of the back so it doesn't feel scrunchy. Coming up, same way, hands or no hands, coming up all the way. So I like you to try to attempt to do up to actually 6 to 8 times of it, especially if you feel the T-spine is rather hard for you to access in a back bend. Thank you.